Welcome back to DVD number 2 out of 3. We're going to call this one Hope. Welcome back to my guest, Pastor Lindsey Williams.
Thank you, Stan, for allowing me the privilege of being able to come in your studio with your equipment and be able to tell the American people the truth.
It is my privilege to have you. Now I understand we're going to talk about money.
The most sensitive part of anybody's anatomy is the rear pocket. And the reason I entitled this second DVD Hope is because I hope that the elite do not get to do what they say they're going to do.
Amen.
If they do, we won't have any money 2 years from now.
Wow. He said it's going to be that bad, huh?
Oh, positively. They've already set that date. The elite said, now this was said to me just a few days ago. They said, within 2 years, you will be so poor, you will not be able to take any action against the elite. Prediction. They know it's going to happen. They already have it planned. They know what's going to take place. Now, when I finish with this DVD, and it's going to be a little more lengthy probably. Oh, by the way, if there's anyone viewing that did not view DVD number 1, please view DVD number 1 before you go to number 2 and number 3. Get them in order so you get the sequence of the events. But the elite made it very plain that of what they're going to do with the money of the United States of America. And when I finish with this DVD number 2, you will understand why they have the ability to do what they say they're going to do.
Okay.
So, here goes. And I don't like saying this. You know, I just told you a moment ago before the camera was turned on.
You don't like doing these DVDs.
Now,
you don't like, this is not your first call.
No, verify this. I said a moment ago before we came up here on the stage and the cameras were turned on, what did I tell you last night before I went to sleep, praying last night and telling the Lord I did not want to do this DVD today?
That's right. You said you didn't really want to do it. And I'll just add to that, I know that's not your heart. Your heart is a soul winner. Your heart is an evangelist. You want to get the gospel out. But right now, this is what the Lord has you doing, and so you're going to do it with all your might.
Well, 3 months ago, I was being pushed by every radio talk show imaginable. They were all saying, see, 2 years ago, when this gentleman told me, he said the price of crude oil is going from $147 a barrel to $50 a barrel, and there was no way. It couldn't do it. It was going up. All of us, everyone that I knew, was predicting that it was going up and up and up, and it would be $200 a barrel and $5 a gallon at the gas pump and $6 a gallon. I was predicting that based on what my mind told me, and this man said it's going from $147 to $50 a barrel. I was stupid.
Well, everybody was saying $200 a barrel on oil. They were saying it's going to $200 a barrel.
Wall Street, everybody was saying this. The futures market was all saying it's going up, and up. Can't go down. And here, this man says it's going to $50 a barrel. Can you imagine how stupid I felt to go on the first radio talk show? I remember the first one. Brother Butch Paul said, "Lindsey, I'll let you go on and say it." He said, "I don't care whether it's right or wrong." He said, "You've always been right for the past 35 years. He said, "You can't be wrong now." And so he put me on his show. People they were deluged. I mean, he said, "I have never, in my 15 years doing radio talk shows, I've never had this many people to call into my office and respond to a talk show." And my office was too. My office was just deluged because people said it can't happen. And it did. It happened exactly like he said it. So you can depend on the fact that what they've said they're going to do. So I would love not to have to say what I've got to say today, but I know it's going to take place, and I have no choice, just like the other things that he has said. So I must give this.
Let me just say that this is their plans. Now, as we know, they don't always get their way, but this is their plans. And it could be that something could change the plan, but based upon past effects and past results, they've always been able to hit it before. Sometimes they change their timeline and stretch it out, but it's reliable information.
Well, as I said in DVD number 1, they have changed or altered, is the way I'd like to put it. They've altered their timeline. And I was told the new timeline. But the next expression, I would really not like to have to make, but I have no choice because it was told me just like this. The elite are laughing at you and me and the American public. They think you're stupid. They think I'm stupid. They think the American public hadn't got a dab of sense. You don't rise up. They did everything possible to push to the American public to the nth degree, right against the wall, and yet they stood there and took it and didn't do anything about it, took no action whatsoever to do nothing.
You're referring to the price of a barrel of oil.
No, I'm referring to what I'm going to talk about here today with what the elite have done with money. And whenever you see what they have done and realize they're sitting back laughing, saying, you bunch of stupid Americans, you have allowed us to do this to you, and you have done nothing whatsoever. They have altered their timeline. Now, at this point, a clip is going to be played, and you will see that the American public literally donated to the elite approximately $2.5 trillion. Now, you did not hear me say thousand or million or billion. You heard me say trillion. The American public donated. You gave approximately $2.5 trillion to the elite. And as a result, they altered their timeline.
Mr. Provenza, you've mentioned several times today in your testimony the importance of transparency. Can you explain why that's important?
I think the committee has talked about that several times, that it wants to see a strategy for how money's being spent and understand how it's being spent, and have reporting back from institutions that it's being used for the purposes desired, and so in order to give assurances to Congress and American taxpayers that it's being used for the appropriate purposes, we want greater transparency and accountability.
Is it fair to say that when hundreds of billions of dollars of the taxpayers' money is being spent, the taxpayers have a right to know how?
Yes.
Mr. Cohn, how much has the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve increased since September 1?
It's increased from around $800 billion to about $2 trillion.
And what was that money spent on?
That money was lent. It was lent to banks, investment banks. It was spent on lending through the commercial paper market, and it was lent to foreign central banks that lent dollars to their banks to take pressure off the U.S. dollar market. So it wasn't spent, it was lent.
Which institutions received it, and how much for each institution?
I don't know which specific institutions received it, but by categories of institutions, that's captured in our balance sheet that we publish each week.
But we would like that in writing, Mr. Cohn, for the hearing record.
Okay. I'm sorry, what in writing, Mr. Chairman?
The answer that you didn't have right off the top of your head to that question.
Okay. But I think I would, you're going to hold a hearing on this, Mr. Chairman, and I think I would be hesitant to give the names of individual institutions. In fact, I think it would be a very bad idea, because I think it would undermine the utility of the facilities that we're giving. But I think we should say more about the categories of institutions.
All right. We actually looked at one of the arrangements, and one of the arrangements is $9 billion for New Zealand. That works out to $3,000 for every single person who lives in New Zealand. Seriously, wouldn't it be better to extend that kind of credit to Americans rather than New Zealanders?
It's not costing Americans anything. We're getting interest back, and it comes back. It's not at the cost of any American credit. We are extending credit to Americans.
Well, wouldn't it necessarily affect the credit markets if you extend $500 billion in credit to anybody?
We are lending to all U.S. Financial institutions in exactly the same way.
Well, look at the next page. The very next page has the U.S. dollar nominal exchange rate, which shows a 20% increase in the U.S. dollar nominal exchange rate at exactly the same time that you were handing out $500 billion to foreigners. Do you think that's a coincidence?
Yes.
All right, well, the Constitution says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law.
This money is not drawn from the Treasury.
Well, let's talk about that. Do you think it's consistent with the spirit of that provision of the Constitution for a group like the FMOC to hand out $500 billion to foreigners without any action by this Congress?
Congress approved it in the Federal Reserve Act.
When was that?
Quite a long time ago. I don't know the exact date.
100 years ago?
The original act is 1914, I believe.
I don't know whether this provision was in 1914 or not, but the Federal Reserve Act was in 1913.
All right, and at that time, the entire gross national product of this country was well under $500 billion, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Is it safe to say that nobody in 1913 contemplated that your small little group of people would decide to hand out $500 billion to foreigners?
This particular authority has been used numerous times over the years.
Well, actually, according to the chart on page 28, virtually the entire amount that's reflected in your current balance sheet went out starting in the last quarter of 2007. And before that, going back to the beginning of this chart, the amount of lending was zero to foreigners. Is that
it was zero before the crisis, yeah. But this was part of the process, working with other central banks to, again, to try to get dollar money markets working normally in the global economy.
All right, my time is very limited.
The gentleman's time is expired. The gentleman
Thank
from
you,
New York.
Mr. Chairman.
King George only put a tax on tea and started the Boston Tea Party. And the American public gave the elite $2.5 trillion, and you did nothing? Not one thing. Allowed them to do it out of your taxpayers' pocket. And it was done during the last 2 to 3 months of the Bush administration, and all of the Americans knew about it. And finally, as you saw, Bloomberg News Service rose up and said, we want to know where it is going to. And as a result, there was an investigation made by the Congress of the United States of America in which they summoned representatives from the Federal Reserve before Congress to tell where the $2.5 trillion approximately, varying a little bit, went. And they refused to say. They would not tell Congress. They said, we can't tell you. We won't tell you. And you saw the clip. They made it very plain. They have no intentions in telling you where the $2.5 trillion that was donated went to. Now, let's just try to think of something for a moment. What is $1 trillion? If someone spent $1 per second, it would take 41,000 years to count to a trillion. And yet, you wonder what $1 trillion is? Well, let's try to put it in another perspective if I can. The United States government has an approximate $9 trillion national debt. And this year we're supposed to add $1.5 trillion more to that national debt. This $9 trillion national debt equates to $1,500 for every man, woman, and child living in the world today.
Living in the world, not just the United States?
No.
Living in the world?
To the world, the entire world. $1,500 to every man, woman, and child in the world today. It would equate to 28 Eiffel Towers built out of pure gold.
Wow.
$9 trillion. And yet the American public gave to the elite approximately $2.5 trillion. The last few months of the Bush administration, all right, what did they do? The elite created the crisis. In order to make the American taxpayer think that they had to do it or the banks were going to go under, they said that the world cannot exist unless you give amounts of money. You remember the big push.
I remember it.
And Bush said, oh, yes, it must take place. And if it doesn't happen, then the whole world's going to see a collapse. The American banks will all go under. They started somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 years ago planning this crisis that they were going to have in order to make the American public think that they must give this money to the elite. And they gave it to the elite. Have you seen any taxpayers getting that money? No, the taxpayer gave it to them. And Bloomberg won't even, Bloomberg made them admit to the approximately $2.5 trillion. And now they're saying, we won't tell you where that went. All of the other trillion that went along with that, it went to the banks and it went to big institutions. You remember the ones that they gave all the money away to. And now most everybody's already forgotten about it. But you actually gave it to the elite as a donation because they created a crisis. You see, one of the nicest things that the elite like to do to the average person is to create a crisis and then create a solution.
Yes, Hegelian dialectic.
Yes. And so they created the crisis, made everybody think you've got to do something about it before Mr. Bush gets out of office. And if you don't, the whole world's going to collapse. And so you gave them the money. As a result, I was told that the elite altered their timeline, which in some ways is good because it gives the American people approximately 2 more years to be able to make some amends to what they're doing.
Then were you saying that if we had not given the $2.5 trillion that we would have had a financial collapse much sooner?
Oh, yes.
As in right now we would be, in other words, let me rephrase that. If we were maybe in early January of 2009, we could have been in a major collapse?
That is correct.
So we bought ourselves more time by going along with what they wanted.
You bought
2 more years.
Yes, bought 2 years, approximately. That's what their timeline is now. The Americans didn't revolt. I was appalled when I watched this whole scenario taking place. In fact, I was so appalled watching all of this happen until, as I mentioned in DVD number 1, I have not done a single radio talk show in 3 months. The reason being, I said, until I know what the plan of the elite is, I will not get out there and do any more guessing. And I literally disappeared. Very few people could even find me. I left home. We traveled as a family for 2 months' time and did nothing, but just waited until I could find out. And I did not want to get in touch with this man. I kept telling talk show hosts, I don't want to talk to him. And they said, why? I said, I don't want to know the facts. I said, it'll scare the daylights out of me. I'm afraid that what he tells me might alter my lifestyle. And it did. I mean, I'm still stunned.
Yes.
I'm still moved by what I heard. And as you heard me say last night, I prayed and I said, Lord, I'd just soon not do this. The Americans didn't revolt. They watched to see what the American reaction would be. They watched very carefully to see if the American people would rise up as they did at the Boston Tea Party. And they didn't do one thing. You did nothing, American public.
Wow.
You sat there and gave the elite. As a result, they altered their timeline, and I have been told what their timeline is. And here it is, in a nutshell, and I'll elaborate it on the rest of this DVD. You have 2 years, American public, and it's all over. 2 years. They've given you baseball, apple pie, and beer, and you've swallowed it. And you're satisfied. Just enough to keep you quiet. You know what the word job, J-O-B, you know the new meaning of the word job? Just over broke.
Well, that's true.
And that's exactly what they have
That's true.
given to the American public. They've given them just enough of the carrot to keep them from being under total starvation. And as a result, they've quietened you down enough that they know within 2 years they'll have you exactly where they want you. You have given them $2.5 trillion approximately, and they bought. You bought yourself 2 years of time. You know,
but $2.5 trillion is pretty expensive to only buy 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are in control of everything then.
Oh, totally. Nothing happens by chance in government. Nothing happens by chance in the monetary system, with the Federal Reserve, with the economy. Every single bit of it is planned in advance. I knew years ago many of the things that they were going to do. I've tried to tell people that for the past 35 years, what was going to happen. And yet the American public will give them approximately $2.5 trillion, and yet you'll turn around and fuss about buying my DVDs. And yet they're uncopywritten. I mean, you look on the DVD, you'll find no copyright there whatsoever. I beg you to take these DVDs and copy them, give them away to every person you possibly can. I was told 2 years ago that we were going to have inflation. 2 years ago when I talked with this gentleman, and he said the price of oil was going from $147 to $50 a barrel, and he said you will have massive inflation within approximately a year and a half, and he said the American dollar is going to go on the skids and will probably nearly collapse within that period of time. And when it didn't happen exactly within the timeline that I was given, I went back and I asked him this time, I said, what happened? He said, we have altered our timeline, and you basically have bought yourself 2 years by giving the elite what you did. Their plan, here it is. 2 years, total collapse of the dollar. Make your preparation, set your house in order, prepare to have a zilch currency within 2 years' time. Secondly, inflation. Inflation is going to be gradual. Instead of taking place all at once, as I was led to believe back about a year and a half ago, inflation is going to gradually take place, and approximately 2 years from now, since you'll have no currency hardly left at all anyway, inflation will be to the point that you will have major problems putting dinner on your dinner table. They said to me, within 2 years, you will be so poor that you will not be able to revolt. And this is one of the main reasons that I decided to do these 3 DVDs. I wanted to warn the American people, folks, if you're going to do anything, if you ever intend for your children or your grandchildren to be free and not be slaves, you take immediate action, or within 2 years, you've lost it. And you can chalk it up to your actions that your grandchildren, your children, grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren are made slaves. Let me explain. I'll try to put it this way. All original wealth, now do some thinking. All original wealth comes from the ground.
Right.
A Federal Reserve note, that's not wealth.
Right.
Paper, that's not wealth. All original wealth comes from the ground. I have here in my hand a silver dollar. 1965, I did it. I took one of these into a bank. I was at the time living in Hollywood, Florida, pastor of a church there. And I took this into a bank in 1965, handed them this, and said, I want one of these, and they gave it to me.
Wow.
Today, you have to take 25 of these in to get one of these. Now, this came from the ground. This is original wealth. Someone had to work for it. Gold and silver is very difficult to get out of the ground. God spread it out all over the face of the earth in little bitty pieces instead of having a printing press like this. This is original wealth. Everything that is original wealth comes out of the ground. This is worthless, and they know it. So what is the money of the elite? The money of the elite is gold and silver.
That's what he told you.
That's exactly what he told me. And he said that the only thing that you can depend on, and I'm not saying this for the sake of the gold dealers either, or the silver dealers. I'm glad you're in the business. But the only thing that will be worth anything, the only thing that is going to have continuing value, the only thing that will continue to increase in value is gold and silver. Because it came out of the ground. It was original wealth. Now, why do you think gold and silver is not taxed and regulated? Oh, I asked this man this. We talked about this. Have you ever thought about the fact that there is no tax on gold when you buy it, but everything else you buy in the state of Arizona, where I live, is taxed? In your state right here, it's taxed. But you go in and buy gold, there's no tax. You buy gasoline, there's a tax. You buy clothing, there's a tax. There's no tax on gold. There's no records kept if you don't want them kept. You can buy gold and silver from anybody, or you can buy it from a gold and silver dealer, and they don't have to keep records. You decide you want to trade it or sell it. Now, why is it, and I asked this man this, I said, why is it that gold and silver is so different? He said, because that's our currency. They don't pay any attention to paper. The elite don't use this. They've got better sense. All right, now, let's go a step further. I don't have one with me here, but have you looked at your dime lately? Do you remember the time when a dime was made out of silver?
I do.
And you remember when a quarter and a half a dollar was
Yes.
made out of silver?
Yes.
Now it has that little
Sandwich.
stupid golden ring around it,
Copper
saying it's
sandwiched
worthless.
in the middle.
And
That's
the
right.
elite are sitting back laughing at the stupid, dumb American for being willing to let them have your money, and they gave you a piece of paper in exchange. And they own the gold and the silver, and they don't tax what is theirs. And I asked this man, I said, no tax, no records, no nothing on gold and silver? He said, no. He said, that's our currency. The gold and silver, they know where the value is. They've given you paper. They've taken away your dime, your quarter, your half dollar. They've even taken away the copper in your penny. And then the American turned around and gave them approximately $2.5 trillion, and they gave you $9 trillion worth of debt. And they're sitting back laughing at you today. I mean, literally, I know I talk with them. They're laughing at the Americans, thinking they're utterly stupid. You have a mortgaged house. You have a $9 trillion national debt. You have a credit card, and you've got debt, and that's what they've given you. And they've got the gold and the silver while they laugh at you and have a timeline set of 2.5 years with a job just over broke. Now, I have to pour my heart out to people because I know it. I lived with these people for 3 years. I had an opportunity to examine them. Keep in mind, after getting a bachelor's degree in college, I had to take psychiatry. I had to take some courses in analyzing people. I was a pastor for 12 years. I dealt with almost every situation imaginable as I was counseling with people. By the time I got to the pipeline, I had the ability to see through these people and to analyze them very closely and to talk to them in such ways that I would pull out of them their feelings without them knowing what I was doing. And all of this has been done by design, intentionally, gradually over a period of years, like a frog boiling in a pot. You know the story. Most everybody has heard it.
Yes.
You take a pot of cold water and you put a frog in it. Then you turn on the stove and let it gradually heat up, and the frog will never jump out. But you take that same frog, heat the water up to boiling point, and throw him in, he'll try every way in his power to jump out of that pot. Now, the American people have had it given to them a little at a time. First thing they did was they took away your gold.
1933.
Then they took away your silver. 1965 was the last time you could get a silver dollar for a $1 Federal Reserve note. Then they took away your quarter and your dime and your half dollar and your penny. Then they gave you $9 trillion. It took America 200 years to accumulate $1 trillion of national debt. And yet, within a matter of just a few administrations, we have accumulated $8 trillion more. And this year, we'll accumulate over $1 trillion in 1 year, and every bit of it is done by a frog boiling in the pot design plan of the elite, what they've done for you. Then, they wrote the textbooks for your school. Oh, they were more than happy to pay for these textbooks because they could put in them everything they wanted. So they rewrote the textbooks. Now, may I tell you why they rewrote them?
Yes, but I almost hate to hear taking out the good stuff and putting in the bad stuff.
I'm going to give it to you, just like they gave it to me. Public schools today are... I better start over this over again. I don't want to stutter one bit. Public schools today are designed to train qualified taxpayers.
Wow.
Now, what was the original public school designed for?
To teach the King James Bible. to teach the people to read so they could read the Bible.
And why did Webster, as I said in my first DVD, why did Webster write the first Webster's Dictionary in America in the English language?
So that the definitions would not change, so that the people would stay to the same definitions, so the meaning of the King James Bible would not change. And instead, the dictionary has changed with the people's change of the language. So our language should stay the same according to the Webster's Dictionary, so we have the same King James Bible understanding.
So the first public schools were for the purpose of teaching people how to read, not for the purpose of being qualified taxpayers. They didn't have an income tax back then. The first schools were for the purpose of teaching people how to read so that they could be qualified Bible readers and understand the Scriptures as they were presented in that day and time with the Scripture that they had. Today, that's not the reason for the public schools. They've taken the Bible out of the schools. They've taken all religion out of the schools. They have injected evolution that teaches a human being that he is nothing but an evolutionized animal and that he should act like one. And so they do. Sex, wild, mad, crazy things. Just look at the average person today.
Amen.
They act exactly like what they have been trained to do, evolutionized animals with sex education, with the same morals as the average animal when they're in a rut. And every bit of this has been done by the elite. And the Americans have fallen for their line, and they're laughing at us.
Well, this is what evil does. I mean, the devil comes not but for to kill, steal, and to destroy. He is doing what he does. The problem is the church is not rebelling, or the church is not kicking the evil out. The church is not standing up and fighting. So consequently, if you don't put out the light, then the darkness takes over.
But the church can't. The pastors are hogtied today. They have a noose around their neck. They can't say one word. If they're 501c3, they don't dare call the president what he is.
Did you know that as a 501c3, they are not legally a church? In the eyes of the law, they are a government corporation, and they have to abide by those corporate laws. You see, when you lay down the Bible and you pick up the books and the government and the laws of the world, then you get what we have today.
I have a challenge for every person watching this DVD. Go and find a copy of the Constitution of the United States of America. That is the law of the land. Every president, every congressman, every person that goes into the military, they promise to obey that Constitution. Now, my challenge, find anywhere from We the People, where it began, until the last word of the Constitution, you find me anywhere in that Constitution that it says separation of church and state.
No place. Does not say it.
But they've led you to believe that. And they'll quote it to you real quick. Why? Because they've mentally brainwashed you into thinking what they want you to think. See, every bit of this is a subtle plan that has taken place over many, many years, and now this man over 85 years of age, you know, when you get close to the end sometimes, you say a lot of things. No matter who you are. Quigley wrote his book. He said, nobody's going to believe me anyway. So where's America today? Well, let me give you some statistics. America has more debt than all of the rest of the world combined. Take every nation in the world, combine that debt. America has more. America lost, 152,000 companies have left the United States of America and moved abroad.
I'd like to say something about that. In that I'm president and CEO of the Prophetic Oil Company, I can tell you starting a brand new company in America is probably one of the most difficult places in the world to start a new company. For example, I can't go out and say, hey, we have this new opportunity. I can't even talk to people about this company. They put all kinds of shackles on me and all kinds of tape over my mouth as president and CEO of a new oil company trying to get it started. The climate in America is not favorable for a new company. And matter of fact, I've even had people that advise me, my attorney and other people, say, well, maybe we should move the company to become a German company when we make it go public. And many companies are now opening up to be public companies in Germany because Germany is more favorable to companies than America is.
Well, they wanted our job shipped abroad. They wanted all these things to take place. They had to put us right where they wanted us. America was the only country on the face of this earth that was we the people, ruled by the people, people government. It's the first government on the face of the earth where the people have ever been in control. It was a whole new form when our founding fathers founded it. So they wanted to do this. 1 million manufacturing jobs have been lost in the United States of America just within the Bush administration alone. The United States has lost 7 million textile jobs, 3 million manufacturing jobs to free trade and outsourcing. America must attract, this should be startling to everyone if you'll think it through for a moment. America must attract 17% of the world's capital in any given day just to service our national debt alone.
Wow.
It can't continue. They know there's 2 years left. Their timeline, they've had their meetings. They've considered it. They know what the timeline should be and just where it's going to end. Now, I'll come down to the nitty-gritty. The standard currency of the world is crude oil. It is not the dollar.
Or gold.
Not the gold, not the yen, not the ruble, not the pound. The standard currency of our modern day world is crude oil. 2 years ago, I was told the price of crude oil is going to go from $147 a barrel to $50 a barrel. This means the destruction of the dollar because now, within 2 years, it'll be worthless. Let me show you why. OPEC just announced recently that they're no longer using the dollar as the currency for the sale and trade of crude oil. They will gradually fade it out over a period of approximately 2 years. Now, OPEC are the oil-producing countries of the world, not just the Middle East. This includes Nigeria, Venezuela, Mexico, Russia. All the oil-producing countries of the world make up a part of this group that say we're no longer going to use the dollar for the sale and trade of crude oil. The reason that America's dollar has always, in your lifetime and mine, been the reserve currency of the world is because it was the only currency that would be accepted for the sale of crude oil. You couldn't sell it in any other currency. They wouldn't accept it. Now the American dollar, as of just recently, it's been announced we're going to a basket of currencies. We may use a ruble, we may use a yen, we may use something else. And they've even said we may use gold. But the standard currency of the world is crude oil, and whatever crude oil is sold in or denominated in, this becomes the standard currency. That means that since America's dollar was the reserve currency of the world, now the whole world is going to be dumping it as fast as they possibly can. Can you imagine what happens when it's dumped worldwide? What will happen to the dollar? Worthless.
Fall like a rock.
Fall like a rock. They've got it scheduled already. I've tried my best to tell you in DVD number 1. I'm trying my best to tell you now. Where does crude oil come from? Crude oil comes from the ground. Where does all original wealth comes from?
The ground.
All original wealth comes from the ground. Are you getting the message? Original wealth. The farmer produces wheat. He produces original wealth. I just came back from Montana. I spent a number of weeks up there. Montana doesn't even know we have a recession. I've never seen such a state in my life. Millions and millions of acres of beautiful golden wheat. They had a bumper crop. Montana has no problems. In fact, they told me, they said only 2 out of every 5 people in Montana even work anymore. Why? It's the old timers with their original wealth. They've gotten it out of the ground from the wheat crops. They don't even know we've got a recession up there in Montana whatsoever, and they probably won't for a long time. All original wealth comes from the ground. Where does gold come from? The ground. That's the reason that the elite have gold and silver as their currency. Oil. What is the standard currency of the world? It's crude oil. It's the most desired thing in our modern day society. You have to have it for the airplane, the automobile, for the spaceships, everything we do, the generation of electricity. They know that the original wealth comes from the ground, and this is what they trade in. What was Iraq? Iraq was an oil war. It had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction.
I agree.
Because oil comes out of the ground. It's original wealth. And the elite I wish I could tell you that. Our politicians have betrayed us. We have been taken. And there may be a few of them up there that are good, but they're very few. They're bought. They're paid for. I have here in my hand the official report from the U.S. Geological Service.
Yeah, I know where this one's going.
2/3 of North Dakota, western South Dakota, eastern Montana, Bakken, Bakken, is the largest domestic oil discovery since Alaska's Prudhoe Bay. The Energy Information Administration estimates, EIA, estimates it is at 503 billion barrels, even if just 1/10 of the oil is recovered at $1.07 a barrel, where they were thinking of back in the days when it was discovered. We're looking at a resource worth more than $5.3 trillion, which would take care of much of the national debt. Let me give you an example. The Bakken oil reserve. It's 8 times as much oil as Saudi Arabia. It's 18 times as much oil as Iraq. How many soldiers have we lost in Iraq, men and women? Thousands.
Over oil.
What'd they die for? Oil. Yeah. Bush family is an oil family. They died for oil. You know the lady that said, Mr. Bush, I have just one question to ask you. And she camped out on his doorstep down in Texas. She said, will you please stop your limousine long enough to answer me one question. Why did my son have to die in Iraq? He drove his motorcade right by where she was camping out in front. I saw it on the camera.
I remember.
Right by. Never even had the guts to get out of his, excuse my word, to get out. I was supposed to be a minister too. I didn't say a bad word. I said what's down here. Didn't even have the intestinal fortitude to get out of his car and say, lady, your son died for an oil war. The Bakken oil field is 21 times as much oil as Kuwait, 22 times as much oil as Iran, 500 times as much oil as Yemen, and all we'd have to do is produce it. But they will never allow it. In fact, they have already passed legislation stating that it cannot be produced.
Legislation.
Yes, that it cannot be produced. Why?
Illegal to pump it out of the ground.
Yeah. Illegal.
Illegal to drill for it.
Illegal.
Illegal to sell it.
And I was told they would never do it. And I was told that they'll never produce the North Slope of Alaska. There's more known oil reserves on the North Slope of Alaska than in Saudi Arabia. And they've waited now all of these years, 35 years, and never allowed it to be produced. And now they're cutting back on the flow of the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. And the geologists won't let them do a thing about it. And every single bit of it is by design plan. They do not want America to produce anything out of the ground, because that's where original wealth comes from, and they have a plan for America. And they've got 2 years, and they will have done enough that they will feel like that they have their plan fulfilled.
All right, I must say something here. As president and CEO of an oil company, Prophetic Oil, about a year ago, I began selling crude oil on the side. And so consequently, in the last year, I have contacted every or almost every one of the refineries in America. There's 150 refineries, and I have called them trying to put together a sale of crude oil. And there's probably 10 people trying to sell crude oil for every one that'll try to buy it. Now, when I call these people, and their job is, at these oil companies, is to answer the phone and to buy crude oil. That's what they do. And this is their attitude. Well, fine, you can come on into my office, and I got a kneeling rail in front of my desk, and you can get on your knees and you can beg me to maybe buy your crude oil. And if you do beg, don't get any slobber on my desk, because then I won't buy any. Their attitude is, we don't need your crude oil. We don't need your help. I've had them actually tell me we don't need anybody else selling us crude oil. We've got all of the crude oil we want. In other words, refineries in America are turning away people that are selling crude oil. And I can deliver crude oil to them higher quality at lower prices, and they won't take it. In other words, there is not a refinery in America that is hurting for crude oil, not one. The price of a barrel of oil, in my opinion, I get to give my opinion here, my opinion should be no more than $35 a barrel, but probably it ought to be down around $20 a barrel based upon how much there is. For example, right now, I've got offers on the table to sell Bonnie Light out of Nigeria, some of the highest quality crude oil on the earth. Nobody wants it. Azeri Light out of Azerbaijan. I've got crude oil from Venezuela. There's refineries out there that say, no, we only want heavy crude oil. I say, I can get it for you. No, we only want sour crude oil. No, I can get it for you. No, they don't want it. They are not hurting for crude oil. The price, if the supply and demand were allowed to take over with dealing with crude oil, I'm telling you that the price of a barrel of oil would probably be in the ballpark of $35, no more than $50 a barrel. And we probably ought to be paying no more than $1 for a gallon of gasoline right now, probably closer to 75 cents. But all of this, and that's another thing I must say, oil also is not a fossil fuel. We could make a whole DVD on that. You and I know that it's not a fossil fuel. It's actually naturally created, continually created as a natural byproduct of the processes deep inside the earth as it rotates. All right, now you get me on my soapbox, but back to you. I just had to say that you were being lied to about that too, but go ahead.
$9 trillion of national debt. Now, this is admitted to by the government of the United States of America. It's actually much more. But they admit to $9+ trillion of national debt. It's not the national debt that matters. The average American has not the slightest idea when they hear these astronomical figures. The national debt is not the important part. It is the interest on the debt that is important. Now, the national debt could go to any amount that the Congress wanted to go to and spend like drunken sailors. Someone said to me the other day when I used that expression, they said the only difference between Congress and a drunken sailor is the drunken sailor spent his own money. Congress is spending the taxpayers' money.
Amen.
It's not the debt that matters. Forget the debt. It's the interest on the debt that must be paid. And it must be paid. If it's not paid, the American dollar will collapse. Now, who pays the interest on the national debt? No. The taxpayer does not pay it.
I know.
No.
I understand, but most of them think it's the taxpayer, and it's not.
Taxpayer doesn't pay any interest on the national debt. The interest on the national debt must be paid, and is paid by the Treasury of the United States of America issuing T-bills and Treasury notes. And people all over the world and nations all over the world have, for as long as crude oil has existed, have come to the Treasury of the United States of America and bought our T-bills and our Treasury notes because they are the most secure currency on the face of the earth, and it has become the reserve currency of the world, and every nation has coveted them. They wanted them. They held them. They knew that when every other currency varied in value, that the T-bill and the Treasury note would remain the same. No longer.
They're all about to crash.
As of the day, that OPEC said we're no longer going to use the American dollar for the sale and trade of crude oil only, but we're going to use a basket of currencies. As of that day, the dollar died. Now, what's happening? The dollar is no longer the reserve currency. Nations do not show up at the Treasury auctions anymore. I brought this subject up to this gentleman a few days ago. He elaborated. Are you ready? He said to me, he said, well, Chaplain, do you know who is buying the T-bills now within the past 6 months or year? I said, you tell me. I know, but you go ahead, you tell me. He said the Federal Reserve is buying them in order to make it look as though the national debt is being paid. But he said, Chaplain, mark my word. And these are exactly what he said. He said, Chaplain, mark my words, that cannot continue, because the Federal Reserve, even they, do not have enough to continue fooling the world into believing that the T-bills are worth anything. He said, as a result, the world is not showing up at the door of the Treasury anymore, and it is only a matter of short period of time, probably much less than 2 years. And the American dollar, for all practical purposes, is a thing of the past. I was told by the elite that within 2 years, the plan for the dollar is to be worthless. This is their plan. Within 2 years, only gold and silver will be worth anything. It'll be the currency. Now, let's just take a nation, for instance. Now, this comes from the Dow Jones Newswires. That's about as reputable as you can get. And he goes on to talk about Saudi Arabia. I'll use Saudi Arabia because that name is very well known to the average household in America as to where oil comes from. And here's what it says. Saudi Arabia, 90% of whose exports stem from oil, has sought to maintain the price of oil at $80 per barrel. Now, here's why. Now, mind you, crude oil is approximately $70 now. It went down below $50. And this gentleman told me that this is so important. This gentleman said to me a few days ago, it's going to remain between $50 and $70 a barrel, and it might spike up just shortly, but it'll go right back down again. It's going to stay there. Why? Saudi Arabia, for instance, must have $80 a barrel. Why? They said the kingdom has been obligated for more than $400 billion in defense, energy, and security and infrastructure projects, and if the price of a barrel of crude oil goes below $80 a barrel, they cannot maintain their budget. They will be losing money on every barrel of oil that they sell because they cannot meet all of these infrastructure, defense, and energy projects in anything less than $80. It is a slow death. And this man said to me, he said, all of these OPEC oil-producing countries are going to die. They're going to die gradually. They're going to dry up on the vine. We'll pull out a finger this week, and we'll pull out a toenail next week, and we'll pull out the beard the next week. And little by little, we will drag them down because all they're getting is $70 and $60 a barrel. They must have $80 a barrel in order to maintain their economies. And a man laughed at me the other day on a talk show. And he said, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all of these, Venezuela, all these countries, oh, come on. They're never going to go broke. Yes, they are. Because the elite of the world already have it planned to give them just a little bit less every month than what it takes to meet their budgets, and they'll have to go back into their reserve funds. And what is their reserve fund?
Very little.
Their reserve fund is the American dollar. And what are they going to do with the American dollar? What is Russia going to do with the American dollar? They are in big trouble. What's Venezuela and Mexico, who's on the verge of broke? Mexico is. What are the Saudi Arabia, who must have $80 a barrel just to maintain its economy? What are they going to do? They're going to go into their reserve currency. What's their reserve currency? The American dollar. They're going to sell off $1 billion this month and $1 billion next month. And before long, the world's economy will literally flooded with American dollars. Then what happens?
Collapse.
It's dead.
Collapse.
Now, People don't realize. Oh, folks, I beg of you, the elite have set 2 years. They already have it planned.
You're talking about a wheelbarrow full of dollars to buy a loaf of bread, like it was the German marks years ago.
That's right.
We're looking at it
Yes.
in the next 2 years.
In 2 years. And you will be so broke, American public, that you will not have the money to even be able to attempt to rebel against the elite. You couldn't have a Boston Tea Party if you tried. You won't have enough money to pay your airfare to do it. I mean, they have it planned already. I'm warning you. And if you have any doubt about what I'm saying, stick around a while.
This is scary.
I'm 73 and I plan to stick around a while. I want to see all this happen. Oh, I'm not looking forward to it happening, but I'm sure, I know it's going to happen. Let me describe America 2 years from now. Iceland. Iceland was the first country to declare bankruptcy in our modern day world. The 300,000 inhabitants of Reykjavik, Iceland, are stunned at how fast their standard of living has dropped. Overnight, people lost their savings. Prices are soaring. Once crowded restaurants are almost empty. Banks are retaining foreign currency, and companies are finding it difficult to do business abroad. Inflation is at 16% and rising. People have stopped traveling overseas. The local currency, the krona, was 65 to $1 a year ago. It is now 130 to $1. Companies are slashing salaries, reducing workers' hours, and in some instances embarking on mass layoffs. That is America 2 years from now.
The soup lines are soon to return. The question is whether there'll be soup.
They will be here. And you will have it within 2 years if the elite meet their extended timeline. And the only reason they extended their timeline is because the American public, through our Congress, who deceived us. Oh, I have some choice words. Every one of them ought to be voted out of office. You shouldn't put one of them back. We need a clean house from beginning to end. Our Congress literally deceived us, and as a result gave approximately $2.5 trillion of the American taxpayers' money to the elite. And when Bloomberg demanded to know where it went to, and the representatives from the Federal Reserve, as you saw earlier, appeared before Congress, they refused to tell Congress where approximately $2.5 trillion went. And you didn't rise up. The American public said not one word. Within 2 years, you will be so broke, you won't be able to rebel against the elite. You have 2 years, and it's all over.
Wow.
Unless you take immediate action. Immediate. My book, To Seduce a Nation. I'm going to quote one of the authors of the Constitution of the United States of America. I didn't say it. Thomas Jefferson did. You can't say anything against a man that helped to found this great republic. And in Thomas Jefferson's writings, he said, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." Thomas Jefferson, one of the authors of the Constitution of the United States of America. Iceland, we'll see it happen here. Set your spiritual house in order. Set your physical house in order.
And financial house.
Copy this DVD. Give it out to a person you know. I'm trying my best to tell you what they told me. If ever you did anything, you need to do it now. It's almost too late as it is. I'm not a prophet. Now, I know some of you, when all of this happens, you'll say just like you did whenever I said it was going from $147 to $50 a barrel. You called up the talk show host, and you said, "Lindsey Williams is a prophet." Oh, by the way, go to YouTube. It's so comical. When we came back from just disappearing for about 2 months' time, my son Daniel, he said, "Daddy, I think I'll go to YouTube and see if all of your DVDs are still up there on YouTube." And I said, "Daniel, that'd be nice of you." Came back in the room in a few minutes after turning the computer on. Daddy. He said, "I'm so excited." I said, "Daniel, what do you mean?" He said, "Not only are all of your DVDs still up on YouTube," but he said, "Somebody has gone on YouTube on their own and put on there somehow," I don't know exactly how they do it, I'm not a computer genius like this modern day generation. He said they put up on the YouTube, take notice, everything Lindsey Williams said in these DVDs has come to pass. I said, "Daniel, thank you very much, but it's not what Lindsey Williams said. I'm just an ordinary everyday person. I'm not a prophet. I have only repeated what the elite have told me. And what I'm saying on DVD number 1, DVD number 2, and I plead with you to watch DVD number 3, whenever you see all of these things, you're only going to know one thing, what the elite have indicated to me. And I'm only repeating what they said, as I've done for the past 35 years. And whenever it happens, you're going to say, Lindsey Williams is a prophet. And I'm going to say, no, I'm not. I just happen to be, by the providence of God, in the right place at the right time to meet the right people, to be able to tell to the American public what probably nobody else in the world has access to, and that is the ear of some people who respect me enough because I dared to give 3 years of my life to be their chaplain.
Wow. Well, Lindsey, I appreciate you being on, and I, too, look forward to see your material in DVD number 3.
If, Stan, you lived in 1928, just prior to the Great Depression, and if you had known what was going to happen in 1929, you would have taken some action, wouldn't you?
As much as I possibly could.
If you had lived in Europe before World War I and World War II, and you had known that those wars were going to take place, would you have taken any action?
I sure would.
If you had lived before the Twin Towers went down, and you had known that 9/11 was going to take place on a certain day, would you have been on the top story that morning?
No way.
If you'd lived in New Orleans before Katrina, and you had believed what they said in Oil Storm, which, by the way, they produced. Oh, yes. You see, the elite always tell you everything they're going to do in advance. Now, that's in DVD number 3. You must hear it. The first thing I ever learned from the elite was to listen to their buzzwords. They produced only a few weeks prior to Katrina a movie which was on television all over this nation entitled Oil Storm. Some may remember it, some may not. And in the movie, only a few weeks before Katrina hit New Orleans, it told everything that Katrina did. And the elite sat back afterwards and said, "We told you so and you didn't listen to us." If you had known that Katrina was going to hit, would you have been in New Orleans that day?
No.
If you had lived before Jesus Christ was born, and if you had been told the day that he would appear in Bethlehem's manger, would you have joined the shepherds that night at his cradle?
I'd have found a way to get there.
You've heard it. Folks, I've tried my best. I've done everything in my power. I traveled half across America to get to the studio to try to tell you. I prayed last night and said, Lord, I don't want to say this, but I warned you.
You know more than anyone else out there that these ruling elite are not playing games. And so many times Christians and just fellow Americans and patriots want to believe, oh, this is not going to come to pass. But for 35 years, you've seen what they say come to pass over and over and over. And you've tried to warn them. We pray that they will hear.
Thank you, Stan, for making possible your studio so that I could tell the American people.
Glad to have you on.